Hey guys, this is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and I am back with another video. And no, this is not an old Hollywood scandalous tale video, but since you are here, you may as well sit back and listen to this video because it's definitely one of my weird tales. But since I never have the time to edit those videos, I just decided to do this one in story form. So sit back and listen to the story. On April the 23rd, 1940, at a small school in Mississippi, almost the entire senior class were bugging out about the celebrations to be had later that night. You see, Walter Bournes was coming to town, and honey, you know everybody could not wait to hear one of the hottest band leaders in the South. Now, Walter Bournes himself wasn't from the South, but while Cab Calloway and Duke Ellington were jamming it up in front of white or mixed crowds in the North, Walter had it locked down in the South, honey. Some people referred to him as a second-rate musician, but the folks down South, they knew better than that. They knew Walter Bournes and his band could really jam it out, and every time he toured in their town, there was a great time to be had. So with this in mind, back at the schoolhouse, all the girls giggled about what they were going to wear and what boys they might be able to dance with, and all the boys were hoping that maybe they'd be lucky enough to get a sweetheart. Shucks, maybe even walk their sweetheart home. Now, as the school day came to a close, it was clear that not only were the school children excited, pretty much every young adult in town was excited. As a matter of fact, the ages of the folks talking about hitting the club that night went from about 15 to 16 or to probably about 30 years old. So yes, honey, this wasn't just no odd affair. Once again, Walter Bournes was coming to town. As a good portion of the residents got themselves all prettied up and all GQ, the town started to smell like it. Child, all you smelled was stovetop hot combs and curling irons, and once you smelled that, oh, you knew the sound of hair grease sizzling due to the heat was sure to follow. Those weren't the only sounds either. There weren't many young male residents in the town that could afford cars, but the ones that could, they were certainly outside revving up their engines, showing out for their friends, and about to boil over in giddy excitement, just thinking of how many girls were going to be cooing and awing all over their sleek machines. And if a fella didn't have a car, oh, it wasn't no never mind, because what he lacked in transportation, he more than made up with his style. And you better believe them dudes was clean that night. Yes, sir. They was mighty clean. So everyone is just going about town, rambling and rolling, and finally the moment they had been waiting for had come, honey. The sun had gone down, and it was around 6 or 7 o'clock, and it was time to get to the club. Everybody in town started their walk, laughing and smiling the whole way. The guys with the cars was driving by extra fast, maybe trying to get the girls' skirts to blow up a little. You know, who knows? It was a night of fun, a night to let your hair down, so anything could go on this night, and most everybody hoped for the best. Their hopes were dashed just a bit, though, when they finally did make it to the club, because they saw just how long the line was. Really? Man, they waited the whole doggone day meddling through school and work, and now you're telling them they have to wait even longer? Oh man, no. Nobody wanted to go for that. And although most people silently cursed under their breaths, there were others who chose to vent their frustrations a bit more loudly. Hey man, how long this gonna take? The club gonna close by the time we get in there.
Hey, all right now. That's enough. We moving as fast as we can, so y'all just hush up back there now.
When the bouncer finally opened his mouth and said that, the line went back to deathly silent. People may have been frustrated, but nobody wanted to go toe-to-toe with the bouncer. Luckily, though, nobody had to go toe-to-toe with the bouncer because soon the line started moving steadily. Probably because the manager had come out and demanded that the ticket girl move a little faster. I mean, the cover charge was 65 cents, and if you thought he was going to lose any of that money because somebody was moving slow, baby, you better think again. Soon, most of all the 500 people that were in line had made it inside the club. And you started to hear shared conversations speaking on how nice the club looked. Now, the outside wasn't much to speak of. It was just some rusted metal building with a tin roof. But the inside, oh, it was spectacular. The owners had decked it out with this beautiful Spanish moss that was hanging from the walls and the ceilings. They'd even shined the dance floors up in anticipation for tonight's event. Speaking of those shiny floors, they immediately became unshiny because as soon as the occupants got inside, some went to dancing and others went to looking for friends, and even others tried to find a place in the middle of the floor just to be in the mix. Everybody, however, was waiting for their Walter Barnes and his band to make their grand entrance, and after about an hour, they did. There were loud shouts and wide eyes as the dark-skinned, gold-toothed, handsome gentleman walked up to the mic and introduced his band, Walter Barnes and his Royal Creolians. And immediately, the band went to playing that beautiful swinging sound that they were known for. And everybody went to cutting the rug. There wasn't a still body in the house, honey. Everybody was jamming. It was all so much fun that time went by like lightning. And soon the clock showed it. It was almost 11 o'clock. By this time, the fast dancing was gone, and the band went into a succession of slow songs, and all the young boys and girls who had been eyeing each other all night finally had the chance to make their move. People were also taking this time to cool off because the 500 bodies in that small, long space had definitely created a heat wave. As a matter of fact, some people even started requesting that some of the windows be open just to let some air in there. But they were told that the windows had been nailed shut. You see, the owner didn't want anybody who hadn't paid the cover charge to enjoy the party scene or Walter Barnes' great music from outside the club. And that was all well and good for the owner and all, but dang it, the folks in the club was sure enough hot. Then out of nowhere there was a quick yelp, and everyone froze. They started trying to strain their ears to listen over the fantastic but very loud band. And then there was another quick yelp, and soon a full-blown scream. The scream was so loud that the band stopped, and everybody in attendance got a cold chill run down their back. That beautiful Spanish moss that they had just bragged about earlier was no longer green. The moss was on fire. Panic gripped hearts everywhere as every one of the 500 occupants made a mad dash for the door, all at the same time. Young men and young women who had finally built up the courage to talk to each other were now grabbing each other by the hands and arms, trying to make a mad dash to save themselves and their newly found loves. Most of the people in the back of the club, who no doubt had complained about not having a good view earlier, were now thanking their lucky stars, as they were some of the first to get out of the blazing building. But many others were not that lucky. After the first wave of persons got out of the front door, the second wave of people that were right behind them now had their view clouded by deep, dark smoke. As they choked and struggled to breathe, they became confused, and they tried to push the door outward, tried to open the door, their minds not remembering the fact that the front door opened inward. And before they were even able to figure out their mistake, a big bunch group of Spanish moss fell down upon them, lighting their hair and faces in an instant. They weren't the only ones headed for doom. As the smoke got thicker and thicker and the view turned even darker, people who were in the middle of the club covered their mouths and noses, praying that they will be able to reach fresh air soon. Others were already so overwhelmed that their knees started to buckle and they dropped to the ground, overcome by the heat and the blackness. Little did they know, when their bodies hit the ground, there was a fate worse than fire or smoke that awaited them. The people they had just been having the time of their lives with were now trampling them in a desperate bid to save themselves. Women and men were by now screaming and crying uncontrollably, and parents and other family members were outside of the clubs now, trying to find a way to save their loved ones. Soon someone had a bright idea and they yelled out, "Get the windows open! Open the windows!" But they found out, just like the victims inside, that the windows were nailed shut. It's later said that the club owner would hang his head in shame over this issue. But right now, all that he could do is stand outside with everybody else and look on horrified at the situation. And the situation was indeed horrifying. Witnesses talked about the blood-chilling screams and the smells of burning flesh. It was truly, truly a scene of nightmares. What started as a night of unbridled fun had turned into a complete and total disaster. And what was worse, there was only one full-time firefighter in the whole county. And he did make it to the scene as quickly as he could. But by that time, deathly screams and cries had roared through the night. When it was all said and done, over 200 souls were lost. What of Walter Bournes, you ask? What of the man of the evening, the band leader? Well, Walter Bournes and his band went down as heroes that night. You see, the story says, as the fire rained down on the patrons, and as it was rolling towards Walter Bournes and his Royal Creolians, Walter looked on at certain death and stood very still. He had a quiet calm that came over him, and he requested that his band continue to play. In fact, he asked them to play the song Marie. He tried to use the song as a calming effect for everyone else, so that everyone could escape the rhythm club in an orderly fashion. But unfortunately, for all of his valiant efforts, his attempts failed. And so is the story of Walter Bournes and the Rhythm Club fire in Natchez, Mississippi. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I think I'm going to continue to do the weird tales like this simply because I need to get them out there and I just don't have the time to edit them, guys. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please tell me what you think in the comments, and I love you guys, and I shall see you soon. Bye, y'all.